Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Paranormal Storytime podcast. I can't believe we're on the fourth episode already. That has gone so fast. It's amazing. Thank you to everybody that's listening and giving us feedback. We really appreciate it. If you haven't heard our previous episodes, we've also done Yale Bell Hotel and Spa in Nottinghamshire. We've done the Edinburgh Vaults. And we've also done Crystal Crags on the Nottinghamshire-Derbyshire border. I've tried to pick places that are quite different from each other, as you can tell. If you don't know who we are, we're a small two-person team creating this podcast DIY from scratch, which is more of a challenge than we thought. We talk about history and hauntings on this series of different places that we've actually personally been to. Today, we're heading over to Worksop in Nottinghamshire. Worksop is a small town which famously was the setting for Maid Marian and her merry men. Are any of you old enough to remember that? As it is located close to the Major Oak. The Major Oak was a 1,200-year-old tree which experts sadly believed died this year after tireless efforts to preserve it. They believe this due to it not producing any spring leaves for the first time, which is really sad. Sherwood Forest, though, apparently haunted. We might have to go and have a look at some point. On less sad news, both Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden fame and Ahura of RuPaul's Drag Race fame are from this small town. However, what we are going to talk about today is far removed from Robin Hood's alleged crimes and the glitz and glamour of music and drag. In fact, this episode is going to be much more robes, hymns, and holiness. We are discussing the history and hauntings of Worksop Priory. The priory is thought to have been established in 1103 by the canons of St. Augustine and is still an active place of worship to this day. It is likely that a smaller Norman church occupied the land prior to it being repurposed by the canons. Commonly known by locals as Worksop Priory, its official title at its origin was Priory of Our Lady and St. Cuthbert. St. Cuthbert, originally from Lindisfarne, is the patron saint of Northumbria. I've yet to find what links him to Worksop in any way. The abbey was built bit by bit thanks to wealthy benefactors. In the name of one of these benefactors, Willem de Lovetot, the abbey gave out bread and beer to the poor at Christmas, at the cost of £9, 16 shillings and 4 pence per annum, or £8,474 and 45 pence by today's inflation standards. Quite generous, really. The gatehouse was built in the early 14th century, but in order to complete this, permission was needed to remove a large amount of oak trees from the Archbishop of York, which was granted. However, in the 15th century, the closure of the abbey and the forced retirement of the prior and canons was ordered under the rule of Henry VIII, when he made himself the head of the Church of England, as the Pope had refused him an annulment to his first wife, Catherine of Aragon. The church was also very rich, so there was a monetary aspect too. With the help of Thomas Cromwell, he began to dissolve the monasteries. Many religious buildings were destroyed so that the king could reclaim the land and wealth. Unfortunately, Worksop Priory was included in this, and many of the buildings, including those used as dormitories for the monks, no longer stand. The gatehouse, which was built in the 14th century, still remains. Visitors are able to walk around the gatehouse, but it has been gated, I know, to protect the structure and likely people from being injured as well. The priory also has a large graveyard with some beautiful memorials. Even if you aren't into the paranormal, it's definitely interesting to explore. I'm going to be looking into some of the carvings that we found on the gravestones to see if they've actually got any specific meanings behind them, because there were some quite unusual ones. Given the frankly gobsmacking number of old religious buildings in the UK, oddly by percentage, not many of them are reported as haunted. According to the Church of England's website, there are 12,500 churches listed by Historic England. 12,500! Of course, the UK has many other religions and their associated buildings, but as of 2026, according to the census, 27.3 million people, or 37% of British people, identified as Christian, only being beaten out in numbers by the 46% of the population who do not identify as religious at all. The Priory is in quite a central location in Worksop, with the Canch Park just across the road, which has its own haunting, and there's a lot of residential properties. Perhaps due to this, there does appear to be quite a lot of witnesses to the hauntings. One which has been witnessed on multiple occasions has been named the Blue Lady. I know. There seem to be so many different ladies in different locations. The presentation of the Blue Lady is either jumping around on the roof of the building, seemingly in distress before fading away, or drifting through the grounds. She's only seen during a very specific time frame. No one is sure why this is. The time frame is between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. Traditionally, it has been said that the veil, the boundary between the living and the dead, thins or becomes more easy to cross during the witching hour between 3 and 4 pm. Although she has been reported as a lady, some believe this is incorrect and that she may be a man. It's possible that a man in religious garb could be mistaken for a woman, especially as when confronted with something unusual, our brains try to make sense of it very quickly. And traditionally in British culture, well, recent British culture, if we see long flowing clothing, that tends to be associated with women. Also, you could argue that at that time in the morning, it's possible that the witnesses may either be tired or on their way home from the pub, which may not make them the most reliable witnesses. And if we look into more criminology side of things, studies have also shown that eyewitness testimonies are not always all that reliable. But of course, with the paranormal, eyewitness testimonies are normally the most common evidence that we tend to get, and there is a lot of debate around the scientific methods and the equipment and whether people believe that that actually provides genuine evidence or not. There's another school of thought that the Blue Lady is actually a monk, which, given the history of the priory, may be more likely. The distress shown by the figure on the roof would also make a lot of sense, as if your home, place of worship, was destroyed, as well as your entire routine and structure, you would likely be unhappy too. If you visit the priory, it's worth being aware that across the road there is said to be the ghost of a young girl who tragically drowned in the canal in the late 19th century. She's said to walk the banks in a long white dress before fading away. She's been reported since the 1870s and has become known as the Pale Girl. In fact, Worksop has more than its fair share of reported hauntings for a small town. There could be several reasons for this. Having lived in small communities, people can, not always, but can get a bit carried away with local gossip and exaggeration, and pass stories around in increasingly dramatic tellings. When I lived in a small community, I knew alleged things about people I had never even spoken to. So these hauntings could be a product of something that was actually quite simple, but given life by bored residents. Worksop also has both the River Ryton and the Chesterfield Canal. Worksop also has both the River Ryton and the Chesterfield Canal. Water has been linked to the paranormal. It's believed that water can amplify paranormal activity or even act as a portal. Or it could just be the amount of historical places in Worksop and the surrounding area, including the Abbey, Sherwood Forest, the Castle, Clumber Park, the Ship Inn, Cresswell Crags, all add to the potential for it to be a very haunted place. I genuinely love to know what you think and what your theories are. I tend to, with my employment background, look at multiple factors and kind of try and find the truth out of all of them, a combined approach, if you like. But I know some people have very, very specific thoughts and feelings. I am not here to judge anybody, skeptic or believer. I'd just love to know what you think. And now, if you are ready for his unusual and quite frankly inspired take on the haunting and paranormal, we are reintroducing the Yorkshireman. Again, not responsible for what comes out of his mouth, but he always makes me laugh, so hopefully it's the same for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, Worksop Priory, 10 being spooky, 1 being not spooky.
I'll give it a solid 3.
Do you think that might change if we go back in spooky season after dark?
Yeah, easily. Easily. Yeah, it was like the middle of summer, so it was bright and I could see in colour.
Do you think it was a good idea to start a paranormal podcast in the middle of a ridiculously hot summer?
Yes,
How come?
because we can get the summer cryptids.
Ooh, summer cryptid.
Yeah, like gnomes.
Explain.
Gnomes are summery.
Okay. So, have you ever seen a gnome?
No.
Are we going to have to find out whether we can find a gnome?
Yes, of course.
Maybe we should look for some summer specific legends or haunting. What do you think?
I'm down with that. I bet a lot of them will be water based.
Ooh, never thought of that. Are we going to go mermaid hunting?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, but they'd only get us if they're singing like punk or metal
Oscar.
or ska. Good point. Do you think places are still haunted in daylight?
I suppose there's less activity.
Why is that though? Why does it make a difference?
It's not the witching hour, is it?
Oh, so you're believing in the and no judgment, believing in the veil is lifted closer to 3 a.m.?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Fair enough. Do you think it's possible to have haunted activity during the day?
Yes, I do believe.
There's been a lot of, for example, the Enfield haunting, just thinking off the top of my head, where there's been some activity that's been quite impressive. Well, it depends whether you believe it or not. I am not getting involved in that debate. That's happened during the day, so I guess it's possible.
Yeah, it's just probably not as well documented as nighttime hauntings.
Do you think that's because the public expect nighttime hauntings?
Spoopy time, of course.
Makes sense. They don't really tend to set spooky horror films. Oh, actually, now thinking. Actually, a lot of the horror films I watch aren't actually about ghosts. That's weird. They're all about humans.
Well, humans are the scariest things out there.
Very good point. The gatehouse was pretty cool. I do think the gatehouse in particular, like the path up to the gatehouse, would look quite spooky if we actually went at the right time of year and in the dark.
Oh, yeah. And then from the other side, the angle of the cross with the statues embedded into the side of the building.
True, but then I do wonder if it being in Worksop with houses all around it, will it ever actually be that spooky? I guess if you walk down the graveyard far enough, then you're away from the houses and you're away from the activity. But Worksop is quite an active place, so I don't know if it'll ever actually manage to be spooky.
Yeah, I suppose it's like anything. You got to get the right feeling and time.
Maybe it's because like when I was younger, other than me, 'cause I wasn't cool enough, but all the, like, goth and alternative kids used it for photo shoots, and I've just seen 5,000,000 pictures of, like, girls leaning in the arches and fishnets.
Okay.
That stops it being spooky for me.
Well, if it's used more as a fashion, I would say so.
Yeah, I've seen no end of pictures of goth lasses, but actually no pictures of ghosts.
No, I've not seen any ghosts either.
But I guess goth lasses are more common than ghosts, there's more of us.
Yes, probably with the white faces.
We didn't really have white faces back then. Well, not from our little small town sort of goth look.
80s. The 80s could have. Yeah, with proper Polaroids and 1980s goths, they had the white faces.
Very true. Not seen any of those pictures. I think it was more of a early 2000s sort of vibe
With potato cameras.
with potato cameras, which actually, if you look back, those pictures do look more spooky.
Well, it's our 480p.
And we didn't have filters back then. We just looked how we looked.
Very pixelated.
Pixelated, a bit blurry.
No, that was just the booze.
God. Yes. Anyway, memories of Worksop, never mind. I think I'll keep the classy, fake classy veneer and pretend none of that ever happened.
Why?
Is it too late now?
Why? There's not wrong with it. Yeah.
Yeah, teenagers and the noughties were a different breed. Anyway, I'm going to stop dishing all my dirty secrets. Good night.
No.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. There are lots of ways to let us know your feedback or suggest locations that you want to hear us cover. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Patreon, as well as Spotify and YouTube. If you're enjoying the podcast, please can you rate us on Spotify or subscribe on YouTube? This would really help us to get a bit of further reach. We have lots of things in the works. One of the episodes we're going to do is on a very famous haunting set in a Yorkshire council house. There's even been a film made after it. We have spent the night there, and I'm sure a few of you can figure out where that might be. We're also planning on visiting a few museums. We decided to go out the other night. I'm laughing because it was so ridiculous, and just find as many alleged haunted places as we could, get bitten by bugs in the process, and not really find much evidence of the paranormal. We maybe have to wait until spooky season where we can actually be out after dark, as it's not so easy in the brightest light of summer, but we're just curious, you know. We're also looking forward to meeting a few people from the paranormal community because we've got a couple of things set up. which will be very exciting when we get to tell you about those. And if you have your own story of a haunted place, we want to hear from you. In our next series, we're probably going to keep the structure of speaking about one specific place or one specific town. We're going to do the history of that area, but then we want to bring in you. You can either give us your stories to read if you don't really want to be heard on the podcast yourself, or we can do it as an interview style, whichever you prefer. We're just wanting to bring in more experiences of the paranormal, especially around longer cases where it's been sustained in a certain area over a period of time. We've already got a few people interested, but we'd absolutely love to hear from you. So reach out to us on any of our social platforms or on our email, paranormalstorytimepod@gmail.com. Let us know, even if it's just places you want us to go and explore, or if it's something that you want to share with us on our next series, just let us know. Just remember that due to working two full-time jobs, we might not always be the quickest at getting back to you, but we will do our best. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please share us around, tell your friends, get involved. Thank you so much.